Hello, Scotty Reed here for New Abolitionist Radio, and I just wanted to make a quick message of support, standing in solidarity with the Alabama families who are staging a rally and press conference today in Washington, D.C. They traveled all the way from Alabama to go to the Department of Justice in Washington, D.C. to advocate on the behalf of the prisoners who are suffering gross human rights violation as well as constitutional violations. That rally will be held today at, I believe it's Pershing Park. I got the information right here. Pershing Park at 4 o'clock p.m. today is when it'll start. It'll run up until 6 o'clock p.m., of course, Eastern time. The park, Pershing Park, is on the corner of 14th Street Northwest and Pennsylvania Avenue Northwest, again in Washington, D.C. There will be a number of featured speakers, mainly families who will be coming out sharing their personal stories about their loved ones who are incarcerated in Alabama prisons. Now, Alabama is not unlike, its prison system, I should say, is not unlike many of the different penal colonies within the United States at the state level. Lots of gross violations of human rights and constitutional rights. Well, earlier this year, the U.S. Department of Justice under U.S. Attorney General William Barr did an investigation into the state of Alabama prisons, the conditions that the prisoners are being held under. And they issued a scathing report which ultimately said that the state of Alabama was violating the 8th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. Now, that was earlier this year. The Department of Justice has taken no action to remedy the situation. They've done nothing whatsoever other than issue this report. Hence the need for these families to travel all the way to Washington, D.C. from Alabama to demand that the Department of Justice do its damn job and hold the Alabama officials accountable for the horrid system of slavery that they got going on in Alabama. And for those that don't know about the new abolitionist movement and various organizations that have taken up the cause of abolition in this country, the 13th Amendment never abolished slavery. If you read the 13th Amendment, it clearly has an exception clause where slavery and involuntary servitude is reserved as quote-unquote punishment for a crime. And then there was a long history of writing up laws to target people, certain people, specifically black people, for people activity that normal people engage in, or a lot of people engage in, but the enforcement side was only targeting certain communities and certain individuals, and that's the case today, although there is a very diverse population in prison as opposed to the prisons that came after the Civil War, where slavery was replaced, plantation slavery was replaced with prison slavery, where they just contract you out to the plantation, the mines, the farms, and wherever they wanted you to work. So, although black men and women make up the majority of people trapped in modern day slavery and human trafficking, they are followed by Hispanics, and then Native Americans, and of course whites who can't afford to buy the justice that they want, as we look at some of these recent cases. And so ultimately what we are about is ending slavery in this country. We need a repeal and replacement of the 13th Amendment, and we need a new amendment that abolishes slavery in all its forms, no exceptions, okay? So again, I just want to send a message of solidarity and support to those families and activists and former prisoners who are traveling to D.C. to hold this rally today to bring attention to the plight of those behind the bars in Alabama prisons. You probably won't see anything from mainstream media on this, and I wish that these issues would be brought up in the DNC debate, which they have not to this point. one last thing. Speaking of the DNC debates, I do want you to look up Justice and Safety for All, which is a plan put forth by Bernie Sanders that I feel would address many of these issues. In fact, that platform or that plan to address these issues in prison directly came from some of the prisoners themselves and the different advocacies and actions that have been taken over the past few years, putting these demands out there for the public to see. But again, it has never really gained widespread media attention. I'll just chalk that up to the billionaires who are profiting from modern day slavery, and they don't want it to end, hence the lack of corporate media coverage. So stand up for the human rights of prisoners everywhere. Go check out Justice and Safety for All on BernieSanders.com. I believe that's his platform, because I feel like his platform is the strongest in addressing prison slavery today. It falls short in many respects, but it is far ahead of anything anybody else is talking about, putting into action. All right, this has been Scotty for New Abolitionist Radio and the Black Talk Radio Network. Peace and blessings to all.